Esteemed guests, those who are physically present here and those who are joining us virtually, it gives me great pleasure to be amidst you on this matter of livelihoods, rural livelihoods, and particularly concerns of livelihoods in the farming community of India. 14 crore farmer households multiply by 5, that's 75 crore uh, people who are dependent on agriculture in one way or the other in India. That's 50% of our population. Now, if we are to talk about prosperity and better quality of life for Indians, for the country, there is no way we can ignore such a vast chunk of our population. And this, the current emphasis on the farming community, whether it is through aggregation of farmers, through cooperatives of farmers, or through making means available to them through various interventions, it is one of the very committed initiatives of the Government of India since the last many years now, that the farming community is being addressed, upfront, directly. There is no concept of ye ho jayega, it will trickle down to that. It is to be attacked directly. And I'm so happy to say that along the road, we have been part of this journey. We have seen results proving that if we have direct interventions in the farming community, the results are very quick to see. Sometimes as little as 1 year, sometimes as little as 2 cropping cycles, and you can see people, their incomes increasing, coming up above the poverty line, and overall having a better quality of life. Now, with this realization also comes the realization that the size of land holdings in the farm sector has increasingly been fragmented. Reams and volumes have been written about the fragmentation of land holdings in India. And now, of course, I'm also looking at it from one other perspective, that with the small size of families, perhaps further fragmentation will be arrested. But the effects of that will be, slow and long to see. However, right now we have about 80%, 80 to 85% of our farmers as small and marginal farmers. That is very unsustainable area of land on its own. You cannot make technological interventions in such small holdings. There is only that limited value that can be extracted out of that piece of land, given the conventional agriculture practices. But is there something that can be done to extract more value out of it without expanding? Every industry, small and micro industries, cottage industry, everyone thinks of expansion. A farmer cannot think of expansion because of this nature of his land holding. Is there a way that you can increase the value that can be extracted out of that same piece of land? And the way that was found was to create aggregations of farmers, cooperatives of farmers, companies of farmers, FPOs, who could then pull in their resources in a very loose kind of a manner through shareholding, and see how you can synergize your efforts to reduce the cost of cultivation and have better access to finance, better access to credit, and better access to markets. Can that make a difference? I'm glad to say that yes, it can, and it has. We did some project with GT again, and it has been documented. We did it in 3 states, and it was documented that through the creation of FPOs, results were very clearly visible before the end of the second cropping cycle. And if you sustained the efforts and brought in more technology, the increase or the benefits would be in the range of 40 to 50%, as against 10 to 15% in the first year. So, with that kind of an thought, it has been seen that whatever FPOs have been created under the 10,000 scheme, and the very large scale joining of the private sector with this initiative, both as CBBOs of FPOs, or as their own initiative. So many companies are in the value chain aspect of the FPOs, or you have good trusts like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that the Infosys and the others, Tata Trust, they have ITC, they are all joining this bandwagon in trying to improve farming practices, and trying to fix a very broken value chain. If you compare it with the say industry, a small industry, a cottage industry, there you don't find the chain to be so broken. You have something coming in the nature of raw material, you have some labor which is engaged in converting that raw material into a finished good, and then you have somebody who buys it off you, and you complete that cycle. You have some working capital assistance also. But agriculture is such a trade, if I may call it that, or it's such an activity, it's such an economic activity whose value chain is broken in several places. And how do you go about fixing that? The first and foremost thing was, of course, soil. And the Honorable Prime Minister's soil testing program was the first step in the direction of creating greater value out of that piece of land. And it went off very successfully. Then beyond that comes your inputs. And through the FPO movement, through the collectivization of farmers into companies or cooperative societies or whatever legal entity that is possible to be created, you bring together farmers, put them into a whole through a legal process, and begin the process of synergization, whether it is for inputs like seeds or fertilizers or pesticides, or even through custom hiring centers, which will give you the necessary agricultural implements. So the entire value chain has been addressed. Whether it is working in all full measure in every segment of it has to be ascertained. That is the job of the CBBOs who are engaged in this, to ensure that all the broken links in the chain are being rejoined and rejuvenated so as to derive maximum benefits for the farmers. So, this fragmented nature of our farming can be addressed through aggregation, through collectivization, but most importantly, through financial credit linkages and through marketing linkages. And that is what is happening now with the assistance of experts in the field. A large chunk of trained human resource is available. They need to be further trained, because in the rural setup you get people to staff the FPO boards, either boards or even there as employees, but that training is tenuous and it needs to be constantly upgraded, and newer elements need to be brought in. We have technology which can play a very, very big role, and we were discussing this the other day, and how the use of technology can really be a big game changer in the farming sector. Already the process has begun. We have the Drone Didi program, which is currently going on. IFCO is doing that. We have some other initiatives from the private side. We have companies, we have some NGOs, some funds who are also experimenting largely with smaller groups, but intensively, undertaking interventions through technology, whether it is fintech or it is stuff like um, agriculture implements and machines, whether it is combined harvesters or it is um, harvesting tools of another kind, or irrigation, micro irrigation, or it is stuff like drones. So with these combined effort of technology, combined thrust into agriculture through technology, I think we will see a higher and a better return coming to the farming community. And of course, the question then arises is about scalability. Now, that is where, of course, the government is doing a lot in terms of bringing in, even the women's collectives loosely into the SHG formats, the 9 crore women who are into SHGs and the 14 crore farming families. Can they, some of them maybe overlaps, but how is it that we can choose some of them to embed technological breakthroughs with them and see that it works? Advisory services, for example, disaggregated advisory services. So if you have, say, for example, Bikaner, and you have some tehsils in Bikaner which are like on canal irrigation, but large part of them may be entirely rain fed. And how is it that you can find agri services which would suit the different types of agroclimatic zones within a particular catchment area. So those are the kind of things which are possible through technology. And while FPOs is a good platform to embed technology, a lot more effort is required from the private sector to join this and ensure that our farmers have a better chance at having a good quality of life, rising above poverty line, having higher incomes, sustainable livelihoods. And one more thing before I wind up, many of the farming communities' children do not want to continue with the farming, primarily because it is physical labor and highly labor intensive, and also because the lure of the city. And yes, why not? Everybody deserves to have better access. But if we bring technology into the agriculture field, that itself is a big draw for the youth, for the young people to stay clued into their own traditional conventional family businesses, which is agriculture. So technology can be a big magnet for the rural youth to stay within the rural community and take farming to the next level. The trade or the practices which they have learned from their forefathers to be used in the gambit of technology and ensure higher returns for the family. So we felt there was a gap in the way FPOs were being trained or were being expected, the expectation that FPOs would suddenly derive some kind of skills for entrepreneurial activities. We felt there was a gap, little gap, and we have created this book, which is like a primer. And I'm hoping that this will be of great help to people who are in the business of FPOs, because business plan, as Professor Pandanand was talking about, they are a key to the success. So if you plan, if you can tie up all loose ends, even at the planning stage, then there is so much more synergy, so much cost cutting that is possible, and so much better realization of your crop that is possible. So, with that, thank you very much to Grant Thornton for giving me this opportunity to talk about what is it that we can do further. And I hope that with this continued efforts that organizations like GT are putting in, we will have better days ahead for our farming communities. Thank you so much.